I should think that what we are running around is coming out clearly to separate the mandates as given by the Petroleum Industry Act. Our brother, Senator Ningi, has done very well by drawing our attention to Section 48. And if Section 48 is very clear in its provisions, very precise provisions, there's no way we can be having doubt as to who is the top agency or the regulator. Can the OGFVA, ZA, drag its authority with Nigerian midstream, downstream petroleum regulatory authority? I think Section 48 clearly answers it. They cannot do any of those things without consulting with this authority before they can do anything in terms of regulation on any matter that will impact on downstream and midstream petroleum operations. So if we uphold this, I don't think there's any reason why we should be talking about something anomaly or inability to treat the cause. The foundation has been laid by Section 48 on how to get these things done. So it's for us to insist that the Oil and Gas Free Zone Authority in its operations should be able to relate with the Nigerian Midstream Downstream Regulation Authority. Unlike what my brother Senator Abaribe said, the National Electricity Regulation Commission, the Power Act, gave states the authority to generate, distribute, and transmit power. It does not give the state authority to hook up to the national grid and begin to distribute what it did not generate. The state has to, first of all, generate the power. If it generates the power, it has the authority given to it by the Act to distribute and transmit what it generates, not what another agency generates. You go and hook into it. It's unlawful for a state to go and hook into distribution of power generated by another agency. So there's no conflict even there. It's just that people being woolly in their own approach to these things. It is precise. The first word is generate. The state has to generate before it distributes and transmits. If you don't generate, you have no business hooking into the national grid. So this one we're talking about now is very precise. The language is not woolly. Say that any agency or ministry that intends to do any of these things that will impact on the operations of midstream and downstream petroleum operations must consult with NMD, PRA. So there's no ambiguity in this. So when we go back, if we're trying to separate areas of conflict, we'll be properly guided by Section 48. So that the OG, my brother Bamanga, if you want to go there, you know where first of all to knock. You have to consult with this agency and iron it out. Sadiq is talking about all of them sitting down, collaborating, and doing that. Yes, but somebody has a mandate to give you authority to enter that area. You have to consult with that person to draw that authority to operate. Otherwise, it will be discordant. Anybody getting and jumping into an area it wasn't power, yes. Yes. You come, it will be resolved, sitting down. Their powers will be clearly pointed out to each agency. That's my view. Good. Thank you.
Then, yes.
In view of what you have said so far, what is it that the prison is doing in a layman's language, talking to Nigerians that shouldn't be done based on the limitation of the law. Simplistic. If Dangote refinery is not in place, will this issue arise? So why this issue? It is because Dangote refinery now is in place and is operating, and therefore this argument arose. So if Dangote refinery is not in place, or any other refinery like Dangote, would these issues arise? Now, that is the nexus I'm trying to portray. That even where the law is there, you must also speak to the emotions and the sentiment of Nigerians. Because the National Assembly cannot here, or back in Abuja X, attempt to amend any law without getting these practical issues raised by various gentlemen, eminent personalities, to the Nigerian people in whose authority we're here. That's one. Then there is this issue that the last but the second to the last speaker, and I want you to specifically elaborate the message to Nigerians that the prison is violating currently, and check it, need be, what they are doing in Dangote refineries at the moment, and why they should not be doing that. Consequently, at the end of this discussion, we are well equipped and rich. Some of these arguments in twofold. One, to the larger Senate, because we are just but representative of the larger Senate. Whatever argument can pass here, a reach, as you have been done, will take you to the floor of the Senate to marshal our argument in favor or against. And then, to the generality of Nigerians, we must never attempt to be swayed by any personal interest, no matter how good that personal interest is. But at the end of the day, if you amend a particular law, either the oil and gas prison, which is very specific, oil and gas prison, and then the PIA, what is the expectation of Nigerians as far as these laws are concerned? And I want the stakeholders, like I said earlier before now, to divulge their mind as to their institutional attachment. Let's put the country first. Other interests now become second. So I understand the prevailing circumstances of these matters at the moment and the circumstances. But we are not looking at today. We are looking at tomorrow. What do we do to enhance the revenues of this country? How do we do it in such a manner going forward that will not discourage people like Dangote and any other person who wants to become like Dangote to operate a refinery? So it is a very difficult, delicate balance. And as Nigerians, we must provide this avenue, this ground, so that people like Ashiru tomorrow will be comfortable, Senator Ashiru tomorrow will be comfortable to now start thinking big and also operating a refinery somewhere in Kogi or in Kwara or in Ningi or in Sokoto, as the case may be. So it is all evolving. It is my understanding that as we discuss these issues, I'm done, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Today I think it's one of the largest turnout of our senators. Almost 1/5 or 1/4 of the senators of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are here because of the sensitivity of this matter. The senior senators, all are here. The chairman is here. All of us are here, put on our head together to see how we can at least bring you together. There was no effect before. This intervention, I think, is a first intervention to put you under one roof, hear from you, hear from all the remaining stakeholders. Give Dangote invitation, and his people are here. They will come and present their position. Ibn Bua, everybody, we allowed him to come and ventilate, tell us what is his plan. We are unbiased. We don't have any position. Our position is Nigeria. We are representing Nigeria, direct representative of Nigeria. And all these laws, PIA and other laws, are our product. Therefore, we must make sure that we provide a platform where Nigeria and Nigerians will feel secure. Not Dangote, who is Nigeria. We are providing a situation, or we intend to provide a situation, where outsiders will be interested on Nigeria. Come. We are very ready. That is where we don't have any interest in our mind. Our interest is, let us have a unified position. We don't want a situation where you will go on your way, claiming that the law is backing you, the other agency, this agency, this agency. That is where we put our head to. Almost 30 of us, just to show you the seriousness of what we are doing. And we are happy all the stakeholders are here. DSS, Custom, Navy, all are here. Therefore, feel free. We are open for discussion. And after we finish with you, we will take all our recommendations, all your observations, all what we discuss, we will go and discuss among ourselves in conjunction with other stakeholders in the National Assembly, relevant committees, the leadership. Then we will arrive a destination. Our interest is Nigeria. And I assure you that from our outing of today, you can understand that we are ready for this business. Most of us came from Ghana directly. Came from Ghana. Therefore, we are serious, and we will do everything possible to make sure that you are working in the same frequency. We don't have any under discussion with anybody. All what we are saying is that we are the representative of the people. I will do our best, and we will do our best to make sure that we achieve results. We don't want a situation where you are going to court, he is going to court. Court cannot in any way resolve this matter. It will take up to 12 or 12, but let us, we are the custodian of the law. Therefore, let us do something drastically. I think this intervention, and even from the presentation of one of our consultants, you can understand he proposed 3 recommendations. All the 3 recommendations, I think there is immediate, short, and long one, which we can take and use. Definitely we will arrive in a position where everybody will be happy, inshallah. On behalf of our senators and Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I assure you that we will work with everybody to make sure that we have achieved. There is no problem.
We specifically provided a link to the websites where some of these clarifications can be gotten, especially for petroleum-free zones. And the models are not uniform across the world. And each jurisdiction will usually adopt whatever model that suits their own system. But the only thing that is very, very common, that is universal, is the aspect of coordination. And it can be, nobody is diminishing the role of any of the agencies. Like in Qatar, they have Qatar Energy. For their petroleum economic zone, it is Qatar Energy that regulates not just the petroleum sector, but the free zone aspect of the petroleum sector. In Saudi Arabia, there are 2 different zones that are petroleum special economic zones. The Jubail zone and the Yambu
And the regulator, the coordinator of every agency there is Royal Commission for Dubai and Yambo. It's a commission. And in that zone, there are 10 other regulators. So the coordination now rests with one agency. And like we mentioned yesterday, the essence of it is single window. Foreign companies, global IOCs want to come into a place where they don't have to deal with everybody at the same time. So they just want that window where every other agency will sit together.
And to commend Dr. Usman for his very insightful presentation. I was wondering, Mr. Chairman and other stakeholders, at what stage are we going to hear from the real stakeholders that are having this conflict? Yes, we've heard from the legal advisor of the midstream and downstream sector, just raising a question. But at what stage are you going to make your presentation to us? Because we need to hear from you. Let us get your own perspectives. Where are you standing? What do you want us to do? I think it's very, very important. Is it at this stage or when all the papers are presented? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Distinguished colleagues, Senator Chief Benson Nagadaga is my name. I want to, in the first place, welcome all of you to Bayelsa State. And also to welcome you to the hub of oil industry in the whole of West Africa. The issue today we are discussing is a very topical issue. Because they say when elephants fight, it suffers. If we allow this competition to go on, these contradictions and the controversy to go on, the whole economy of the country will crumble, and all of us will pay it for it. I think I looked at the program, which is carefully carved out by the chairman of the committee, my own chairman, also a member of the committee. It's well mapped out, well crafted. What I was expecting in the first place that after all these deliberations, we need to go to the place where oil was first discovered in Nigeria. It's just 30, 40 minutes drive from here. And that will also give us a good understanding of the oil industry, the fate of the people, the host communities in Nigeria. So I want to plead, Mr. Chairman, that we have that in our program, but tomorrow we go and come back. I want a new day he wants us to do so. So I expect to have that done. All of us will be better equipped with the knowledge of this oil industry. So go back to the main subject matter. If there's any controversy, even in the court, the Attorney General of the Federation has the say over it. Now from the presentations, the position of the Attorney General is also shown here. And maybe he was not well informed for him to come to the decision he arrived at. But with all these substances coming, all this information coming in, I think we will have to digest, analyze, and come with a solution what to do. Because if there's any area of conflict, it's a bill that can straighten up everything. It can be an executive bill, and we'll get this issue resolved. Or like what my colleague mentioned, if the bill will take some time, why not do an alternative, something that can quickly put in order for the two bodies to move on, because we need two of them. Because the PIA itself has not been repealed in any way. We have been experimenting it. Like the host community, where I am the chairman of the host community's sector of it. There have a lot of things to also repeal, to change in that place, to amend. The problem in Nigeria today, if you look at it very objectively, since after the enactment of the PIA, I've not seen oil companies rushing into Nigeria to do investments. Rather, many of them are leaving us. They complain of cost of doing business in Nigeria, brought about by sometimes hostile communities, double taxation, and then security of their equipment. They go to places where the oil, their industries are, in fact, they have a better way of doing it. The ease of doing business. I go to Saudi Arabia, I understand it's 4% cost of production there. Here in Nigeria, 20 to 25%. So I think the oil and gas free zone is actually planned to make sure that there are free things to do here to attract the foreign investors to this land. And we don't need to downplay that. So let's look at this very objectively and make sure that the issue is resolved. All of you are needed. The NMTP, RA, and the oil and gas, all of you are needed. But you must play complementary roles on this issue. So I want to thank all of us for coming to Bayelsa, even the invitees who are here, the resource officer who has been able to analyze this thing very well. But at the end of it, the issue has to be resolved by legislation, and the legislators are here. I want to thank you for coming. I'm looking forward for going to Louisville tomorrow.
The leadership of the Senate, led by the presiding officers, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Petroleum Downstream, every other senator here present, the agencies that sponsored us to this place, the regulatory agency, our resource persons, I welcome you all. Thank you very much. For us in the petroleum sector, this is a welcome development that anytime if the agency deems it fit and feels that they need a solution to a problem and you run back to the Senate, that holds the key. And for in such a retreat like this, we are promising you will be able to unlock it and give you the right solution, because we are the real solution architects. The Constitution made it clear there is division, separation of powers, and for us, we are lawmakers. And for such a problem that we are going to resolve and come up with a good legislation that will solve and take the industry and move it forward. Thank you very much for having confidence in us and having confidence in the downstream committee. We pray that subsequently you will always come for solutions like this. Thank you very much and welcome all of us.
I am much more excited, particularly with this lecture of today by the lawyer. And I'm happy that I'm seeing pharmacists, engineers, and physicists making comment on a law issue. It shows that the lecture is very educative, very instructive, and very clear to us. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for people like us to make comment. I want to thank you for exposing us to this level, deeply and well exposed. I want to thank the chairman of the Senate Committee on Downstream for seeing ahead and identifying this fundamental need. It implies that you are definitely, Chief of Staff, it clearly shows that your oversight is well done. What I clearly see from this exposure is a return back to PIA. And law is dynamic, as you rightly said. We need to get back to PIA and ensure that we look again at the roles of the institutions that exist. Sir, for the fact that the president is the Minister for Petroleum, the president also is in charge of the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And therefore, even if you are reducing part of his work to trade, he is still overhead. And we must look at institutional specialization for maximum output. There's the Ministry of Trade who concentrates and specializes in ensuring that trade activities are done for the best output. You can't take them off because there is midstream and downstream. But just as you would be asked to provide some document, and in the final document you may need to get to meet up your need, you may get the approval of some other institutions. They will say, okay, you are looking for contract, you need to give ITF approval, you need to give NSITF approval to be sure that you meet up. And therefore, at the end of even clearance, nobody would, even if it is downstream, midstream, and downstream, giving the final clearance, they may need clearance from Trade Ministry that at their own sector, the man has met, or the company has met what they demand. Because at the final part, we're looking for maximum output. And therefore, we must use all relevant institutions to get the best out of it. Mine is to say I'm excited, and I believe that this workshop is a very worthy one. And I'm sure with your exposure and what we will get later on, will be in position to probably look at PIA, look at all other relevant places, and we work towards ensuring that at the end of the day, it gives the best to Nigerians. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the leaders, all stakeholders, and the invited guests. The simple remark is that at the end of the day, we have a take-home and be able to differentiate the disputed area in terms of our regulations, in terms of the share meaning and the way we do things, in the proper operation of all these segments. I want to believe by the time we're all living here, various organs, various departments, and various agencies that have impacts in building this great nation in terms of health production. We now know the dichotomy in each of the operational organs as far as the legislation is concerned. I wish all of us to sit down quietly and listen to this development. This is a great development and a great introductory part in the new era of oil and gas. So I wish all of us the best in the process of sitting down for this great event.
I remain Senator Engineer Kenneth Eze, and to thank you because you've really solved the problem 50% of the conflict from your explanation. It's quite very explicit. My worry here is it was as if it was intentionally done to create this conflict. If not, why saying consult another agency? What is the extent of consultation? You did not define it very clearly because this is lawmaking. And again, when you look at the decision of the Attorney General, I think he's looking at the intent of all these laws. It's for the benefit of Nigerians. That's the economy. And that is why he clearly gave it to one agency. Because the creation of free oil and free zone is to, I think it should be born out of circumstances to improve the economy, to generate more revenue and create some palliative. And in that case, we should give them the power to perform that to the, let me say, subject to some circumstances, as at that time. Now, you're still bringing PIE to regulate them. You didn't give them the freedom to do that job, which actually the law was meant to provide. So my take here is that this retreat have given us an insight to go back. I think it threw the whole challenge back to the lawmakers. The lawmakers must go and look at, remove all the semantics that is bringing this confusion. What is consultation in law? You've not given any bite to that or definite direct, So there is a lot of confusion, which the lawmakers here have to go with what you have provided to us. That's why your paper is very important, because it made it so simple for us to look and separate all this area of ambiguity. With that, there won't be any other conflict. Thank you very much.
The professor did a wonderful job, and I think he has been able to lead us into some directions. This afternoon, we have started hearing substituting words. Words like possibility of a memorandum of understanding. I don't know if it can work. Words like collaboration, conflict resolution, everything driving at one simple fact, the fact that the national interest must be protected. There's no doubt about it. NMPRA has a superiority stand over any other agency for so many reasons. Reason of age and reason of responsibility as it is described. Equally too, I beg to disagree. There's nothing wrong with our PIA for now. And I'm not saying that it's not reviewable. Definitely, every law should pass through the process of review. But for now, PIA is so young. And when we talk about conflict will always be there as long as there are overlapping responsibilities. And in human engagement, responsibility really must overlap. We are not thinking of a linear operation, or every operation is concentric. It's concentric, I mean, running into one another. There are so many overlaps. What I just feel, and I feel very strongly, attitude is very important in what we are talking about. And I'm not talking of personal attitude, I am talking about institutional attitude. The concept of trying to acquire as much power as possible for the sake of national interest, I have the opinion that we should try to get out of it. And in this process, I am very, very sure NMPRA is so important. And I will just advise that as much as possible, there should be dialogue, constant dialogue between all the participants in this industry. Thank you.
And let me re-emphasize the conflict. From the representative of DSS yesterday, she confirmed to us that there was so many meetings between the parties before the Director General of State Security Services to at least see the end of this matter, but still it is longer. And she believes that what we have achieved yesterday at least is very marvelous. And it will take us to the promised land. Just to establish that there is a conflict, there was a arbitration by the DSS. Therefore, let us resolve that we must get out from this conflict, inshallah. We are very, very unbiased, and we are ready to take each and every input to arrive in a decision. Thank you.
Say, Doctor, you have done fairly equitable justice to the two organizations. But I also want to remind all of us, as human beings, there is no perfect human law. The only perfect law is the laws given by Almighty Allah in the Quran, Almighty God, in the Bible. These are the only perfect things that cannot be amended. And therefore, for anybody to think that when the National Assembly comes up with a law that is perfect, I think is superfluous. So what these laws have said clearly to me is that as National Assembly, we need to sit down and put an interest. What is the total interest? What is the sum interest of some of us being here, or all of us being here? For me, the sum interest is the Nigerian people and the Nigerian interest. And I want everybody to relax, whether midstream, whether prison, whether Dangote, whether other stakeholders, to relax. This is not something that is unbecoming. This is a very usual thing that happens in a democracy. You look at the prison which was established in 1996, and look at the PIA. The PIA has not in any way repealed the prison legislation. The supremacy of the PIA now becomes a concern, whether or not it has not actually confronted other laws and even the Constitution itself. So at this juncture, what you need to do is what we are doing. Taking, listening, and then bringing in some listening. But fundamentally, I had wanted the Attorney General of the Federation or his representative to have been in this retreat, because his legal summary is at the center of this conflict. And for me, he has not looked at all the laws in their clear perspective and probably narrowed down his legal conclusion to a particular law. And we need to take up the Attorney General, whether before we finish this retreat or when we get back to Abuja, for us to continue this interrogation. This interrogation, for me, is very necessary. It is apt. It clearly defines the role of the legislature in all that we are doing. The legislature will not only amend these laws, but the legislature is also saddled with the responsibility of even amending the Constitution, which is the ground norm. So we're in a good stage, we're in a good state of mind, and all I want this thing is that the stakeholders that are involved should not take this thing personal. It's about Nigeria. It's not about one person, one individual, or one organization or the other. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
So Usman, thank you. Have my flowers. Your presentation, apt, clear. You've exposed us to all the problems. But your paper did not also present a solution. I know you took the solution back to the legislature. If you go through it all, you see a very perfect document, well exposed for all of us. And then let me put it, the supremacy of the legislature in lawmaking is what you've just asked us to do. Go back, look at the various laws, and then come up with a solution. That's what you've done to us, and you've given us back the problem, back to sender. Thank you very much. For me, it's clear. We go back to the drawing board. That is the essence of this retreat. Good retreat now, and all the stakeholders are here. You've just asked us, sit back, even right there, come up with a solution at the end of the day. Let us, in our communique, be able to define a new direction to separate these agencies and what we expect from them. If we are going back to OG, FCA, or to remove the OG, to leave the other one. I think at the end of this retreat, we should be able to do that. Thank you very much.
Sorry, good morning, everyone.
No, we will put our head together later and come up with that.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I think yesterday we were almost reaching a point where we can resolve the conflict. It's like we're going back from what we generally saw yesterday as a way out. And I think we should walk along that trajectory. Well, I just want to make a very good observation regarding what the MD said. We do not agree that there's no conflict. Conflict has been created by virtue of the fact that we received letter from OXA tending to tell NFDPRA that they are the sole regulator of the free zones, and that NFDPRA should hands off from there, especially when it concerns free zone, and that NFDPRA should concentrate itself, its functions to custom territory. So to that extent, there's a conflict. Secondly, regarding what happened in other jurisdictions, we have actually taken time to study what happened in Africa, but definitely there's no refinery located in free zone in Africa, in other African countries. But in some of the countries we have studied, especially Egypt, Angola, Kenya, and Ghana, how the free zones operate. What we have found is that free zone authorities are primarily economic regulators. That's what we found. Then secondly, we found that petroleum regulations remain with the specific sector regulator, is sovereign in nature. Then we also find out that technical regulation rests with the core petroleum regulatory authorities. Concurrent jurisdiction is becoming the norm. Most systems now operate through coordinated licensing interagency approvals. Some of the systems country we studied. So generally, it's Nigeria that is now presenting jurisdictional conflict model. We are now contesting. But in all other countries like that, we have studied, there's no jurisdictional conflict because it's very clear in their law. So free zones are restricted, they are economic regulators. The sector-specific regulators still perform functions in free zones. We have studied in this country. We can make further, we can provide our study to the committee. Just to further. Okay, just to aid the committee in resolving the conflict. Thank you. Then we will still definitely invite the committee. We will invite the OXA for more discussion on this issue.
Chairman! Coming just as judges, but we are coming to see the law and work on the law. I still feel, if we still feel that there are gray areas in the PIA, we have substantial right to repeal. And secondly, sir, these ones are very senior ranking colleagues. We're just arriving, still seeing inside the chamber from the window. However, I still also think that as PIA law to now bill to law, I think there would have been an opportunity to review the OPS law. But if you leave that law open, and you only want to use a phrase in the other law that they are supposed to dialogue. I feel that both agencies should be giving their definite roles. Otherwise, if you're asking them to sit and decide among them, you rightly said that absolute power corrupts absolutely. There might be no avenue for that to be done. So for me, I still feel that if PIA law needs some amendment, we can amend. If we still feel that the OGFZA law needs to be repealed and put it definite, we need to do it. Thank you so much.
Senator Ashim, leader, then Senator Sadiq. Okay.
Yeah, the chair. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very grateful on behalf of the Senate Committee on Downstream Petroleum and the Senate proper. I thank everybody for the commitment to this program. I want to believe that we have gotten enough clarity concerning the jurisdictional issue. And I also want to believe that this one has added value to the operational procedures in all the two authorities. I thank you once again for your sitting down quietly over the days to enjoy this bountiful training organized by the Committee on Downstream Petroleum. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Coming just as judges, but we are coming to see the law and work on the law. I still feel, if we still feel that there are gray areas in the PIA, we have substantial right to repeal. And secondly, sir, these ones are very senior ranking colleagues. We're just arriving, still seeing inside the chamber from the window. However, I still also think that as PIA law to now bill to law, I think there would have been an opportunity to review the OPS law. But if you leave that law open, and you only want to use a phrase in the other law that they are supposed to dialogue, I feel that both agencies should be giving their definite roles. Otherwise, if you're asking them to sit and decide among them, you rightly said that absolute power corrupts absolutely. There might be no avenue for that to be done. So for me, I still feel that if PIA law needs some amendment, we can amend. If we still feel that the OGFZA law needs to be repealed and put it definite, we need to do it. Thank you so much.
Senator Ashim, leader, then Senator Sadiq. Okay.
Yeah, the chair.
Distinguished colleagues, industry players and stakeholders here present. Chairman, I want to thank you for this retreat. And I want to thank Dr. Usman for the expository presentation he has made on this subject matter. From the beginning, it appeared that we are gathered to resolve conflicts between the regulatory authority and the free trade zone operators. And by the time we went through your presentation, you were able to highlight the areas of conflict in the existing laws, both the Petroleum Industry Act and the Oil and Gas Regulatory Authority. This other law that is existing side by side with the Petroleum Industry Act has created a conflict, clear conflict. And that's what we are saying. We are saying now, like Senator Abdul Ningi said, our concern is how to make this sector work to the benefit of Nigerians. If you look at the opening presentation, Dangote Refinery asserted that it has the capacity to produce what we need in Nigeria. We have also, as a committee, visited his facility in Lagos, twice, and we can attest to his claim. But the Act has given the midstream and downstream regulatory authority power to import petroleum products into Nigeria. And that's where the conflict is today. Today, the price of PMS is about 1,200 naira. It was only yesterday or thereabout that Dangote Refinery removed 75 naira, bringing it down again to about 1,175 naira a liter. That's not what Nigerians are hoping to grapple with these biting economic challenges the country has. The citizens are suffering. So if we are faced with a situation where the pricing of these products cannot be managed in a manner that the citizens of this country can get a respite, we will be forced to look at the law to see how we can remove these challenges. The bottom line is that Nigerians will want these petroleum products to be available at affordable prices, so the hardship will abate. So I am very happy with what you have given us. Sincerely speaking, you've been able to break it down. And that's why I'm very happy to be a member of the Governing Council of Needs. Yes, it means that we are working and we are researching. What you have given to us now, anybody who goes through it will appreciate the conflicts, the problems, and then we'll take them back as lawmakers. We have to look at the areas, we have to tilt the provisions and make things easy for this industry to function. I know that operators in this industry will continue to see how they can maneuver to continue to make the gain they were making during the oil subsidy regime. You know, that oil subsidy regime that was removed has put them under pressure. That is why I'm not surprised that the opinion of the Attorney General of the Federation, which you correctly identified, was tilted to one institution, one part of the warring factions. It is not going to be so. We, the lawmakers, will balance it. Like you noted, the opinion of the AGF, Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, can be challenged in court. And the lawyers are there. What is important remain the provisions of the law, the Act itself, the PIA, and the other subsidiary legislation we have. So I thank you very much, and I'm enjoying our colleagues that when we go home, we work in a manner to remove this conflict we are seeing here. Clash of interests, profit taking, and all that. We have to look at them very dispassionately and make the ground even.
Bayelsa State is so important for the simple reason that most of the oil and gas in Nigeria have been produced in this state. I enjoin you to devote this quality time to deliberate well on how to take this trade forward. I wish you a bountiful discussion and a beautiful resolution. Thank you very much.
My audience,
what we can take away from this retreat, considering the sensitive nature of the issue above, and considering the fact that the solution would take quite a lot of time for we to attend to it in the manner that required, what will be the short-term measure that we can take away from this retreat? And my own suggestion is that in any law we want to interpret, we look at the intent of that law. We look at the intent of OSA and the intent of NMPR. What are the intent of this law that stakeholders consider before enacting this law? One, I think the intent is for the interest of Nigeria. That's the summary, the interest of Nigeria. What are we going to benefit by enacting this law? And if we look at it that way, it will help us on the short-term measure. Because if we wait for the time the National Assembly will legislate on this matter in order to resolve the areas of dispute, it's going to be really counterproductive to the intent of making the law. So my suggestion is to the agency, the NMPAR, that is fighting for superiority over others, to please step down whatever superiority contest here, provided others will not work beyond their laws, provided they work within their laws. Give them the latitude to perform so that pending the time those areas of concerns are resolved, that businesses will go up, that Nigerians will benefit from the other of the free zone, which was more like created as a result of circumstances that needed to be addressed in order that Nigerians will benefit. I'm looking at short-term measures, and I want those that can be responding to this to give us short-term solutions that we need to hold on pending the time, have a lot of time, because it's going to take time for legislative attention to be given to all this.
Simon Lalong, a member of this committee. Well, let me say from the presentation, I will not answer that this is almost the third time that I'm listening to this presentation. First, I will agree with you that the fault is on us, regulators. Sometimes critical issues come before us, and the way and manner we take it, either with levity or we take it with dispatch, then at the end of the day, we get ourselves into this kind of problem. Like you said, yes, at the time of the passage of the PIA, I was on the other side. I was a governor. The executive position was also different from the legislative position in some aspect of accelerating the PIA bill. Anyhow, the PIA bill went. Now we are getting ourselves into a problem of patriotism. I don't want to say I'm siding with anybody, any particular person, but I am siding, I'm talking for the interest of this country. One, it may be, not for me, be proper to say that you saddle this responsibility with only one agency. There must also be what we call oversight. Oversight, because the purpose of going through several other places is to ensure that no one takes responsibility alone, to facilitate the interests of not only the domestic, but also investors, for investors.
so that they can have comfort in whatever they are also trying to invest in this country. But I also expect that, Doctor, there must be some kind of comparative analysis. Comparative in the sense that, when you are making laws, most of the laws, you will find some things that are in operation in other countries, other than your own. So if they are working well, like in UAE, we can also get some of them to also convince the people who are making laws for to accept that this position is working in the UAE. Why are we changing it? Why are we changing it? So that way, the public will see sense in what we are doing, so that at the end of the day, we are not making the law for a particular person, we are not making the law for a particular agency, but we are making the laws for Nigerians and the future of this country. But I once again want to thank you very much for this lecture. It has educated us a lot. For those of us who are coming for the first time, we are not part of the PIA. I wasn't part of the PIA like Dingy. I was on the other side. I don't want to say which side at that time. So for now, it's very clear. I can now see a balance when it comes back again to the Senate. Thank you very much.
Right now, in my committee, the Committee on Power, because we passed an amendment on the Power Act giving states the right to generate, distribute, and transmit power. And some states have gone ahead to give licenses to distributors and actually hooked up to the national grid without paying anything. If you come and tell them, they say, no, the Constitution lets us, you have made the law telling us that it's our own. And I mean, when the National Electric Regulatory Agency now came to them to say, no, you can't have power without paying for it. They said, no, you made the law telling us to take it. So this is just what we're saying. Regulatory problems will always arise. The only saving grace we had was that we had put in that law that they have to always have meetings chaired by NEC. So NEC is now calling them for meetings to say, let us resolve this issue. So I think that we should find a way of also seeing that we will resolve the issue. The problem really is who will be at the head. Because in our own law, we made NEC the head. And so they must be subordinated. But Prof, I want to thank you for an exposition that shows that these things will always happen. And I think that we can resolve it by tweaking the law a bit. And Chairman, we should also try to find out if the same thing is happening in Dubai, the same thing is happening in Qatar, the same thing is happening in China, how were they resolved? Do we have to go there? I don't think so. I think we have to find a way of getting information from trade and investment. I think you can lead us there and let's see how they resolve the issue.
Whether we have any country in Africa or wherever that have this semblance of a free zone and also a private refinery, so that we'll be able to look at them and see how they also do their own, how they share, how they do the administration in a free zone and a private refinery within that free zone, or a refinery outside the free zone, and then they have a regulatory agency that we have. If you have an idea of any company, I think it would be worthwhile to take a look at how to operate. Not that you are going to change anything, right? To give us a kind of experience and what they do that is different from what you do. So is there any country?
In 1996, the background is that this agency, CAB 05, was established to create a specialized duty-free enclaves aimed at promoting foreign direct investment, stimulating export-oriented manufacturing, diversifying Nigerian economy away from over-reliance on crude and oil exports. See, I have a big issue here. One, the first thing is, when we came to free zones in Nigeria, we didn't just create it, we studied around the world and saw that free trade zone is a way of expanding the economy, encourage this, that. That's why we went to a free zone. As the name implies, when you say free zone, it's a zone free of encumbrances, over-regulation. That's the basis, that's the philosophy for a free zone. My worry, which is the contradiction, is, remember, we said we wanted Nigerian economy not to rely on crude oil. Yet, we are having a free zone where we have an agency again that is talking of oil and gas. At that time, look, anybody that is coming to talk to me here, I'll be interested in knowing what was the thinking of those people then, that you wanted a free zone, you don't want to rely on oil and gas, and yet you want oil and gas activities to go on in a free zone. What were they thinking? There must be a basis for that. And in that basis, I don't know, off record, this is our business, legislature will look at it deeply. Is that basis the outcome of Dangote refinery? I don't know. We will interrogate that deeper when we get to our level. Now, without Dangote refinery, will this conflict be an issue now? That's the question we want to know later. Because I was part of PIA in the last Senate. Nobody, oil and gas was not on our table. That is why it did not feature in that. It's not. It's seen as exclusively different from what we are doing. Our focus in that bill was not free zones. So OGFZA was not on the table. That's why what you refer to as definite silence about it, it is not. Now, PIA incidentally have a superior clause that they can fly anywhere. And is that wrong? No. I'm interested in that quality control, that regulation, that capacity they have. The country must not lose that. We are interested. We will look at that deeply. But for me, the issue will be a free zone is a free zone. If we are not interested in free zones in Nigeria, let's talk about it as a country. If we are interested in free zones, but we do not want petroleum products and gas products to be part of that zone, we need to have that discussion. And for me, these are the key issues that I want to hear anybody coming to. I'm not interested in any agency rivalry, arguing lawyers, they can go left, right, vertical. It's not what is on our table. What are the real deeper issues that we can do? One, to expand Nigerian economy, encourage business, encourage foreign investment, make sure there's ease of business, ensure stability in our supply chain, ensure national energy security and our economy. That's all we care about as senators of the Federal Republic. Thank you very much.
From the papers presented today, there is no any iota of doubt that the NMPRA is the chief regulator when it comes to this industry. I'm sure the outcome is not contesting that. However, what we have not noticed to elaborate from is Section 48 of the PIA. Section 48 anticipates delegation of a similar role done by the NMPRA and therefore requires that any regulatory agency that intends to do this job, they must have authority from them. I'm sure it is very, very imperative. So the law, part of the problem we have as human beings that there is this kind of absolutism. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, give us section 48, if you can. Can you? Okay, section 48 says you drive your authority. I'm not wearing glass, read it for me. Section 48.
Yeah. Section 48 says,
no, just evaluation.
any government ministry, department or agency exercising any power or function or taking any action which may have direct impact on midstream or downstream petroleum operations shall consult with the authority prior to 1. Issuing any regulation, guideline, enforcement, order or directive, exercising any such power or function. 3. Taking any such action. 2. The authority shall review the recommendations of the government ministry, department or agency, and communicate decision accordingly, and the decision shall be complied with by the relevant government ministry, department.
Thank you very much, Senator. And you know, when we were doing the CIA a very long time ago, this kind of conflict actually arose. And that's why this clause was put. So the question is, why can't the prison and the NMPRA sit and drive this authority from them? And why should the NMPRA will decide not to give it to you? Because this position clearly says you can relate. You can relate. So I'm sure as we are speaking for connectivity, nexus, this provision in 48 provides us the latitude, the leeway, because if it is in the interest of Nigerians, you people should sit, okay, this is what we intend to do, give us the authority, and then we do the needful, and then they oversight you, and then you show them the results. And I think if we sit down and look at provision of this 48, it solves a lot of our problems.
It's a long day and we've had very interesting stories about this. We are all well informed. But there is something that is worrying me to know, to be able to understand which pathway we can solve this problem. The sad news, Mr. Chairman, is if I ask the question, oil and gas will tell me yes, but meat and downstream will tell me no. I don't know who can answer me. Can I get an independent consultant that is not biased or is not conflicted to give me the answer or not? Because that will guide my thinking. I should ask the question. Now, let me, meat and downstream. They are not here, they are back to downstream. See your secretary or your MD. Does oil and gas, do they have the institutional capacity to technically monitor the operations, the safety, everything that is your core job to do for oil and gas? As in, for example, even Dangote refinery. Do they have that institutional capacity? No, anybody. No, I told you. Okay, so let me put the question this way. Let me review the question. Chairman, okay. That's what I want. Noted. Because that's the nothing that we need to note. Because this is all what this is all about. Okay. Sorry, I've been at the risk of being the chair for them. Yes, all those countries, they practice. He is saying the practice there is that only the regulator regulates everything in those countries. That's the answer is given that he went on to deliberate. So that's the answer, yes, they are there, and the practice is that it's only the regulator for free zones that regulate everything in the free zones. My name is Senator Joseph Ikpeya. I represent Edo Central Senatorial District. I must confess that the retreat is an exposure of what is happening in Nigeria today. And if we look at it, Nigerians are looking at all of us. This retreat is an eye-opener to all of us, and we must do the needful because something is going wrong. Today, we can see the poverty rate in Nigeria because of greed, because of self-interest. I want to appeal that this issue we should be looked at critically because some sectors are suffering in this country. Some sectors of the economy are suffering while some sectors are blossoming, and I don't think it is good for Nigeria. We must look at it critically because the free trade zone, from what we can see, has a definition. It belongs to Nigeria and should be seen as such. But if we think otherwise, a time will come when we regret it. I want to appeal that Nigerians are looking at us. Marketers, in the past, we have marketers. Today, we don't have marketers in Nigeria. In the market, they don't exist in Nigeria because we don't have, what they go to market, we don't have, there's no refineries working in Nigeria. There's no refinery working in Nigeria, marketers does not exist in Nigeria anymore. I don't even see any divide and invite them here because they have nothing to do here. So let us look at the problem of Nigeria and solve the problem within ourselves. That's my appeal to all of us. Thank you.
And whether either in Africa or anywhere in the world, oil and gas free zones are practiced. And I would like to say yes, it is practiced in Guinea-Bissau, it is practiced in Egypt, it's practiced in Angola, and Egypt, South Africa. So he wants, I think his question is basically to study what they do in those countries and find out whether we could also be like them. It's not a defensive question. So I feel these are countries that practice it, including oil and gas in their free trade zone.
Let me respond to the question of the distinguished Senator Ningi, my elder brother from the Northeastern Zone. So actually, from the presentation from the last presenter, there are a lot of takeaways that are very key. And let me say this categorically. There is no conflict between Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority and Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. The best practices in the free zone concept globally is that there is one free zone regulator who coordinates activities of other relevant government agencies. Just like the customs mentioned, that the free zone area is technically not part of Nigeria, and that we work collaboratively with the sister agencies. The one-stop shop means that any agency of government that have anything to do within the free zone, they will come through the regulator of the free zone. And our mandate is clear: to regulate, administer, manage, develop, license, and grant permits to all investors within the oil and gas free zone. Now, we are discussing the issue of Dangote importing feedstock into the free zone. Dangote is not importing feedstock into Nigeria. It's importing feedstock into free zone. The importation of feedstock is to refine his product. So when we create bottlenecks, it means there are going to be production stoppages. And if there are production stoppages, the refinery will be affected. And if it is affected, Nigeria will be affected and other communities, countries that benefit from us will be affected. Now, if we make the, importation of feedstock into the free zone easy, some is just in the world. We have one regulator of other federal government agencies, and it's global. It's global. Distinguished senators and members of this very, very important committee, all invited stakeholders, good afternoon. May I, on behalf of the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority, appreciate this very distinguished Senate Committee on Downstream Petroleum Sector for the initiative to convene a strategic retreat, which among many highly commendable objectives aims to develop practical working recommendations that ensure regulatory clarity, operational harmony, and consumer protection. In this regard, I must respectfully convey the gratitude of the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority and the entire licensees to the Senate Committee for its wisdom in focusing our deliberation at this August gathering on developing practical solutions that will ensure that national energy security is not undermined, and that investor confidence in our nation is enhanced by this commendable effort to strengthen the integrity of the Nigerian free zone regime. The position of all relevant laws regarding the legal framework governing oil and gas free zones generally, and that of Dangote Industries oil and gas free zone in particular, is already very clear that the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority is the apex regulator in the oil and gas free zone. This position portrays and clearly collaborated by the recent authoritative legal clarification issued by the Chief Law Officer of the Federation for proper context. The distinguished Senate Committee is already aware that in March this year, 2026, the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice issued a formal legal opinion to Dangote Refineries regarding regulatory oversight within the Dangote Industries Free Zone. That legal position, which is based on provision of all the relevant laws, already provides the Senate Committee with very clear legal guidance on the subject matter upon which we have gathered to deliberate. In the first instance, the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, in his legal opinion, personally signed by him, being the Chief Law Officer of the Federation, undoubtedly affirmed that after examining the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, he concluded that as far as the role of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority is concerned, there is no provision extending the regulatory oversight of NNDPRA into the free zone. This affirmation eases the burden of work of this distinguished committee and provides a legal compass for all other discussion at this retreat. The Honorable Attorney General of the Federation legal's opinion further resolved that NMDPRA regulatory authority only becomes applicable in relations to movement into the custom territory of Nigeria and not to petroleum operations conducted wholly within the free zone. This clarification is very important, not because it diminishes the role of any government institution, but because it provides a firm legal foundation upon which all institutions can cooperate in the course of discharging their various mandates. It is important to respectfully state that the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority is the apex regulatory agency of government in Nigeria's oil and gas free zones, as captured in Section 5, subsection 1A, 1B, 1C of the Oil and Gas Free Export Zones Act, CAP, 05 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004. The Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority is statutorily mandated to administer, manage, regulate, and coordinate activities within the nation's oil and gas free zones in a manner that preserves the integrity of the free zones regime, promote investor confidence, and support national economic objectives. However, this mandate does not mean that the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority acts in isolation or excludes the legitimate roles of other competent agencies of government. Rather, our mandate empowers us to collaborate with relevant institutions. My comment is not attached to the oil and gas free zones, but I'm speaking as a Nigerian. I have listened to my elder brother from the NMDPRA. I have affection for that particular agency. I am a very good friend of NMDPRA. And everything I will do humanly possible to support the operations of NMDPRA, that I assure you I can do. But to be honest, I really appreciate our distinguished leaders and our senators. With them, I am optimistic that this country will say our tomorrow is better than our today. Sirs, I don't know what to say, but I was more than impressed with your naturalistic approach on this issue, because all of you that spoke, you spoke about national interest. One thing that is clear is that as agency of government, we should consider national interest before any other thing. One, period to the concept of the special economic zones. We don't have a functional and efficient refinery in Nigeria. Dangote himself made his investment because of this concept of free zone, with all the incentives. Today is the only refinery that we have that is functional. Imagine we don't have Dangote refinery during this Iran crisis. What will happen to us in terms of energy security in this country? Now, Dangote's capacity is already 650,000 barrels a day. It's the biggest in the whole of Africa. And he pledged to upgrade the facility from the current 650,000 barrels capacity to 1.4 million barrels capacity a day. That will make it the biggest refinery in the whole world. I think he needs to be encouraged. The agencies of government, whether OXA or NMDPRA, let us not focus on revenues. Let us look at national interest, which is key. We all emphasize about national energy security. If you are a hydrocarbon producing nation and you cannot sufficiently refine what you use domestically, that means you are not energy independent. And if you are not energy independent, you don't have the energy security. So Dangote should be commended for this investment. And he should be encouraged. As agencies of government, we should not be counterproductive. We should not serve as disincentive to productivity and national interest. And in your submissions, you said the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority was to administer, but our law is very clear. We are a regulatory agency of government and a sector specific to regulate oil and gas in the oil and gas free zones. We have the power to administer, we have the power to license, we have the power to grant permits, and we have the power to regulate each and every agency, each and every activity in the free zone. And we are working collaboratively with our sister agencies, very responsive sister agencies. The Nigerian Customs can attest to that. Nigerian Immigration can attest to that. NPA can attest to that. But the point I want to make is that we are not competing. Let us not compete. Today I am in OXA. Tomorrow I will be in NMDPRA. You are in NMDPRA today. You might end up being in OXA tomorrow. But Nigeria is Nigeria. Let us look at Nigeria as our country and let us do everything humanly possible
that it will ensure energy security and safety of our people. I rest my case and I thank my leaders. Thank you,
Thank you, MD.